Buy or sell? Do you buy or sell the 49ers move so far throughout free agency?
I sell him big time. I feel like I really don't understand what the Niners think they're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seemed to me that this is a team that was this close to winning the Super Bowl last year, and we felt they were going to finally commit to a quarterback and go all in. Trey Lance, but they still haven't done that. They still have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. They still haven't maximized the cap space, all of it. And it's like, it's not that they're a bad team; they're an excellent team. But I feel like they had a clear mission, a clear objective this offseason:
Mm-hmm.
become the best team in the league, and they didn't. Like they're treading water. They got Travarius Ward, great, but they also lost some starters too. And I don't know. I mean, are they better than the Rams? I don't know. Are they? There's a number of teams in the AFC that I think are better than them. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let me ask you this real quick. Who do you, if since you said that you sell, who do you think the 49ers missed out on that would make them better than where they are right now?
It's like, I mean, Travarius Ward is good. J.C. Jackson's better. Yeah,
Okay.
they could have taken the money that they gave to Ray McLeod, uh, who's a new George Odom, and
Mm-hmm.
Travarius Ward, all those three guys, and just spend it on someone who makes a real impact. Because as good as Travarius Ward is, the Chiefs just chose Justin Reed over him, and we're right. I'd rather have Justin Reed than Travarius Ward. So I thought they said they were interested in J.C. Jackson. They said they were interested in Chandler Jones. They said they were interested in Frank Clark. I thought the Niners were about to do a 2019. In 2019, when they felt they were on the cusp, they didn't mess around. They traded for D Ford and then extended him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they signed Quan Alexander. And then when they were undefeated, freaking undefeated at the trade deadline, they were like, it's not good enough. Let's get Emmanuel Sanders too. That was quite an all-in move, and they arguably should have won the Super Bowl that year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we're looking at it like, man, you were just in the NFC Championship game. Do 2019 again. Make your two, and you were interested in J.C. Jackson. You were interested in Chandler Jones. You could have got him if you had just traded Jimmy Garoppolo 2 weeks ago. You could have done it, but
Yeah.
they didn't. And it was like, well, then why were you interested? You're telling me you went from being interested in all the best players in free agency to just settling with the fourth best corner and special teams upgrades? Like, I'm sorry. You really got my expectations up on that one. Now I'm looking like, okay, fine. So you're just going to wait a year, see what you got with Trey Lance and Talanoa Hufanga and Aaron Banks, and then make your move next year. All right, that's so conservative. That's extra conservative. Like, everyone's saying the Niners are trying to emulate the Chiefs, what they did with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. What they did was trade Alex Smith first thing that offseason and then use that cap space to bring in Sammy Watkins and actually surround their young quarterback with the best team possible. And the Niners are still in this area where they're like, here's the way I look at it. Even last year, if they had committed to one or the other, say they committed to Jimmy, they could have extended his contract, made him cheaper, signed players, drafted Micah Parsons, probably won the Super Bowl. Or they could have, after getting Trey Lance, traded Jimmy, used the cap space, bring in a couple more impact players, probably win the Super Bowl. But the fact that they didn't commit to either quarterback, I think is a major reason that they came up this short. And they're going to do it again, Jack. They're going to freaking do it again. Like, learn from your mistakes, man. No other team would do this, but you are. And you still think it's the right thing to do. Where's Eddie? I mean, I miss Eddie D. Eddie D would have stepped in and been like, this is crazy. This is what we're going to do. He was a leader, and he wasn't hands off all the time. Jed's just like, yo, whatever you guys say. I'm chilling. I don't want to be the bad guy here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it. And as far as me with buy or sell, I'm struggling with this one because there's certain parts of it that I want to buy because there's certain things that make sense with what they're doing, and there's certain pieces of me that are saying sell as well. And we're going to get into it a little bit. We can get into it here now. And part of the reason why I say sell is because if you had moved on from Garoppolo and you had the $25 million in cap space, you could have been a player for any of these guys that we're talking about. Because I know J.C. Jackson has huge money for in the first 2 years, but you could have spread it out or done it differently if you wanted to bring J.C. Jackson in. And I think the biggest thing when you look at where the Foreigners are right now is the salary cap it's going to go up next year, but it really explodes the following year. So if you could have gotten yourself a couple of guys on 5-year deals where you give them small deals the first couple and then year 3 it jumps up because there's like a $70 million jump if you look at it from 2023 to 2024. It's huge. And the 49ers are using some of that with their extensions that they've already made, but they're going to need to do it again. I think that's why, like with Bosa, it makes sense not to give Bosa a new contract this year. It makes sense to push Bosa into next year and get Bosa's deal done next year so that it starts to hit with the increase of the cap and you can take advantage. There's lots of reasons for that. Same thing a little bit with Deebo Samuel. So I'm kind of in the sell mode on, and I wish that I do feel like there was a need to maybe make one or two more moves, like maybe a right tackle, because Michael McGlinchey, for what it's worth, Michael McGlinchey is not probably going to be your starter opening day.
Yeah.
And so that's where I am on the sell. On the buy side, I feel like they've addressed a position. They've addressed one of the biggest issues that they had last year that kept them from. I'm not going to say it kept them from going to the Super Bowl, but
yeah.
And part of the reason why I can't say that they have is because Jimmy Garoppolo is still here.
Yeah.
If Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't here, then we would know for certain that they are addressing the things that have kept them and held them back.
It's like the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is still here. It's like if their number one goal this year was to win the Super Bowl, he wouldn't be on this team right now. So what's their number one goal? Their number one goal is to remain in the mix. They're still an excellent team, to remain right there, but also look at the future. We got to think about these draft picks we could get for Jimmy Garoppolo. That's honestly what it's about, right? Like a day 2 pick this year, maybe, and a day 2 pick next year, maybe. Like, who cares? But that's what they're thinking about. That's just as important to them as whatever cap space they could have had this week. That's crazy to me. So this NFC Championship team.
See, and that's the argument that keeps kind of getting me frustrated with it, where they're not moving, is because they could have really, because if they could have pulled in a free agent, one big free agent signing. I understand Charvarius Ward's probably going to be an upgrade at cornerback, as long as you stop asking him whack-ass questions.
Hey, I'll do my part. I will do my part. I'm not a fan of whack-ass questions. I'm just saying. Not pointing any fingers.
Yeah, I'm not going to point any fingers either, because I think I have a good idea where some of those.
Maybe he didn't like being asked about being a slot corner. That's fair.
Well, I think he liked your question. I really do. I thought there were a couple. It was there was a couple of football related questions. I think he's talking about the ones that weren't football related, but we'll leave that for another conversation.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I feel like if they just maybe another pass rusher. I like Samson Ebukam, but hey, how about one guy, a stud guy that you can use, maybe that can replace him, or maybe a stud defensive tackle that you can fit in there instead of having to stick with Javon Kinlaw, because Javon Kinlaw has shown that he's not a very good. He's a good, maybe, he's a middling on a lot of different things that he's doing.
He ain't Fletcher Cox, who's available right now.
There you go. And he's not a player like that. So
in 2019, they would have made those moves, but in 2021, in 2022, they're not. And I'm just saying, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be a 2019 final push, but I think what they're looking is, I think they're just being a little conservative here. They're like, well, we don't know what we have in our quarterback, and other teams are maybe next year's a better time to make I don't know. Like, to me, the NFL, I had a stream with Vish earlier today, and he made a lot of these points. He's way smarter than me, but it's like, you're really planning deep in the future. The NFL is a week-to-week proposition. Like, look at the Harbaugh's team. They went from having the best team in the league to Navarro Bowman's knee getting blown out, Willis retiring at 30, and Alden Smith's life falling apart at 24. Like, that happened real fast. So are you sure this team is going to be great in 2 years? I mean, it could be, but it's football. Have some. I'm just saying.
I just had this conversation with my son about the San Jose Sharks and how they've fallen off, after having some. It's a similar thing with the 49ers. It's where the Giants, San Francisco Giants, were like in 15 and 16, right? They had kind of kept sticking with their older guys. The younger guys they were trying to bring in weren't filling up the gaps and weren't playing up to the same potential as the older guys who were now not quite as good as they had been in the past. And that's kind of what gets teams. And right now the 49ers are in that position where they have a good nucleus, but they're just not getting over the hump. And it's a Moneyball approach in a lot of ways is what I'm seeing from them.
Yes, and look, Moneyball has had its benefits for the 49ers the last 20 years. But it's like, when you're on the cusp, you need to look at what the ultimate goal is. And right now it's winning the Super Bowl. And there's going to be some things that you would need to do to get over the hump that are going to be against your Moneyball philosophy, and they're worth it. The way I look at it is like, the Niners it's like going shopping. with a shopping list and a budget and being real strict about it. That's the Niners. We have this much we're going to spend, and we're not going to make impulse buys. But they could really benefit from one right now. Like, go get a Chandler Jones, go get a J.C. Jackson, and you know what? You'll pay for it down the line, but it'll feel real good when you got that ring on your finger. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about. Ask the Rams. They're not tripping about 3 years from now. They got rings on their fingers. They'll figure it out. That's what you could do. But the Niners are just not willing to make that. Although they did 2 years. They did it in 2019. That's what gets me. They've done it before. Why did they decide this wasn't the year to do it? Because Trey isn't proven enough? They did it after Jimmy had started freaking 8 games. 8.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rams are going all in, and they're going all in again. They went out and they everybody laughs about them and their salary structure or whatever. They just went out and signed Allen Robinson, I believe who was the receiver from Chicago, and he's a darn good receiver. Meanwhile, the 49ers went out and signed Ray McLeod. I mean, I'm sure those 7 yards per reception that he has as a receiver are going to really help out the 49ers offense.
And it's like, look, it happened last night, and I put my video up immediately just making fun of it. And it's like, it's nothing against Ray. He could be fine. It's nothing against the I'm not saying they overpaid for him, but it's like, what are we supposed to say now? Okay, Super Bowl, there it is. Just give the Niners the Lombardi Trophy. Like, wasn't that the goal? I guess not. I guess the Niners are saying, you know what? We're in the mix. Funny things happen. Teams can get hurt. We're going to give ourselves a chance, but we're not going. That's as far as we'll go. That's as far as we'll go.
Yeah, $10+ million for 2 years for a receiver who hasn't shown the ability in 4 seasons to make big plays as a receiver. That's a lot of money if you're only expecting him. I understand the help he might bring on special teams, but I mean that's a lot of money that you're spending right there.
I mean, you're paying a lot for those 2 end arounds a game he's going to run. That's what it's the 2 end arounds and maybe a screen. That's it.
Yeah, for how much he touched the ball.
Yeah.
And real quick, Aaron comes on with the $5. I really don't like this one, but he says, Grant, I agree 100% on everything you're saying.
Well, Zach and I have pretty much agreed on everything so far.
We're not too far off, not too far off at all. And one of the fun things about having you on and talking with you and doing this with you is we've been doing this for 10, 11 years. Going back to when you were doing the Press Democrat, and you'd block me after a while if I started to become a jerk or whatever.
I was immature.
Well, yeah,
I was 25.
You were 25. I was whatever, but I think we're still. You start arguing over football. Sometimes you get stupid.
Absolutely. Usually, like when you write about it too, it's Twitter, any type of forum. It gets. I don't know. You can't see someone's face. You can't see someone smiling when they're doing it, and it just gets really serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really easy to take a joke or something like that as like a dig at you. It's definitely something that comes across that way more often.